Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to my man here, whom I call Professor Katende, Jonan, the man with all answers as far as ChatGPT, artificial intelligence is concerned, robotics and the likes. He's a man who made me fall in love with robotics. And many people, when you begin to talk about robotics and artificial intelligence, they take it so loosely and so simply, and they forget the strength and the power. I think what has made America, and these other, especially America, I think, what it is today is the ability to invest in science and in things like AI and things that like automated, if you like. I think that would be my takeaway. And I wrote an article recently which was saying that why Africa is the next superpower. People were laughing at me, Mr. Katende, and they were saying, look at this guy. What is he saying? But I'm telling you, Africa, we'll debate that later. Mr. Katende has answers for all things. He will probably throw in a word or two on that. But Mr. Katende, I remember when we broke off, I wanted you to explain to me what was Elon Musk's fear, because I need you to make a distinction. Here is Elon Musk coming up with the idea of ChatGPT, and then he abandons it, and then they call it what? What do you call it? Truth GPT. He said he wants to adapt Truth GPT, and then they make it Open AI. That mix up. First, help us go through that mix up.
So let me just make this a little bit more clear. You have companies like Alphabet or conglomerates, whatever, huge umbrellas that are housing the likes of Google, YouTube. That's Alphabet. It owns Google. It owns YouTube. But the guys who founded and DeepMind and lots of other companies. But the guys who started this, you have Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Now, Larry Page was a good friend to Elon Musk. And Google was at the time controlling over 80% of AI infrastructure. First of all, Google is a huge company. It has the money. Then it had the talent. It was get like huge professors, and they work for it. I mean, if you look at even across Africa, most of AI labs we're talking about either have been started by Google or have an affiliation with Google or wants to affiliate with Google to some extent. Now, we have the Google AI lab in Ghana, for example, which took some of, at some time back, it took some of best AI brains in academia in Uganda. Guys were lecturing in the Department of Computer Science, which took them away. So you have such initiatives from Google. Then it has a company called DeepMind. But at the time, Elon Musk felt that Google was not taking AI safety seriously.
Like what?
Elon Musk felt that AI had the potential, like I said earlier, to affect civilizations. In the context that if systems are fed with biased information, and this information is interpreted as truth, or accurate sources of information by particular parts of population, then that means that the behavior of those particular sections of the population would be influenced, but in a way that is negative by a wrong narrative.
I get you. Yes.
AI has a lot of power. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
Which probably can bring out one of the risks. In 2016, around 2016, there was a Cambridge Analytica saga. The idea of using AI tools to affect and influence elections. It was embedded in the principle that just influence 0.01% of the population will influence the entire population. Now that means that you build AI tools or algorithms, they go and they do something called a sentiment analysis or a textual mining of data that is posted by different users. Let's assume on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. So someone comes, the machine comes, it sees, it screens through all my posts, all my tweets. It is able to tell that I support Donald Trump or I support Hillary Clinton. And after making that analysis, actually it's AI that does that. After making that analysis, Facebook then starts to release ads to me that Donald Trump is going to win or has already won the election. Sending me opinion polls that, you know what, the Republican Party is winning by 90%. You understand? So by affecting how I'm looking at the election, I already think that Donald Trump has won.
Okay.
So I don't stand up for voting.
Wow. That's incredible. That's
I don't
beautiful.
turn up for voting. Now that's just one case scenario. And Cambridge Analytica, there are over hundreds of companies. Well, European Union after that came up with GDPR, data privacy protection regulations, things like that.
And recently there was a case, I think, I think there's who lost. Was it Elon Musk was charged, billed, I think, about 1 point something billion in Europe because of infringing upon data privacy. Was it?
I've seen that. I've
Yes.
seen that, but I don't have the specifics. In fact, we were together.
Yes.
When it was airing.
Yes.
Now, the idea is that that's just election. And despite the data protection regulations, there are now even hundreds of companies that are leveraging upon our data to build strong systems that actually affect how we think and how we view life.
Okay.
Now, if AI can be used as a tool just to affect elections, a democracy,
Yes.
and people, let's say, like, get the wrong president,
Yes.
then just imagine what could happen.
Wow.
Now, the same people, they're also, their leader has been manipulated. Now, even the same people are being fed with biased information, which is affecting how they look at life.
Right.
Can you see how much that is actually going to change the entire social contract and construct?
I see Elon Musk's concern, but how else do you think you can stop that? Because listen, it's like giving away your cake at the same time eating it. Because if Elon Musk believes in AI like he does, and robotics and stuff like that, like I saw the adverts that came out when he had made human robotics, female robotics, which have, feelings and stuff like that, and even sexual. Then where is the? Don't you think it's something he's really lying us in a way? Where we draw the line? Where do we draw the line?
Well, the idea is to acknowledge that we cannot do without smartphones.
True.
But there is a risk associated with the usage of them because of the psychological factors in marketing, let's assume. So the Facebook like button was invented in 2009, and since then people go to Facebook, they make a post, people like it, they feel good. Before you know it, they go out to make more posts, and then to check out other posts, to like them. Now, the idea of instant gratification, the feeling that you get, the dopamine stimulation in your blood as a hormone of pleasure, the fact that people are liking your posts is quite addictive. So you find that people, their concentration has been killed. They're spending a lot of their time on social media, on Facebook, something like that. Now, it is destructive, right? But they need it. They also have the power to. It has the power to change their lives. I mean, many businesses have been changed by Facebook ads, Facebook online presence. So on one hand, there is a simplification in information flow.
True.
In information flow.
True.
But on the other hand, there are disastrous effects that arise with digital media. You see things like trolling, deep fakes. Someone with AI now can currently create a video of you, of a face of you. The voice is yours, but when it's not you, I think you saw the famous photo of the Pope, which was flying around when he was in a certain kind of jacket, putting on sneakers, things like that. Now, if we didn't know, we would actually be able to think that it is the Pope that is doing that.
Okay.
The same applies like this week. Some guys released a deep fake, which was about a Twitter space hosted by Elon Musk, in which There is Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who is going to run. Then you have people like Klaus Schwab, the guy who runs the World Economic Forum partly. Then you have people like George Soros talking in the Twitter space. I mean, this is an imaginary Twitter space using voices, faces, and graphic imagery of actual people, but when it is actually not the fact.
Okay.
And you see how disastrous that can be. So
Absolutely.
Elon Musk, I wouldn't want to say that he's the guy with the best intentions, because I don't know him personally. But I would assume that the outcry the alarm is trying to make is more like we need AI. It is a powerful tool, more powerful than we think. But because it is more powerful than we think, it has got to be transparent. We need to have a system in place that checks its power, and we need to regulate it because it has the potential to go out of hand. It has the ability to influence. Now, like you see, when the Cambridge Analytica saga came into the public eye, regulation was made about data privacy, whatever you might call it.
Yes.
So we see the essence of transparency in this regard. We talked about it recently, real time, like around the justice sector. But if you have robots that are being used in China, in Estonia, in different parts of the world to decide on cases, but there is no transparency, then that betrays the entire idea of access to justice. I mean, if an AI system cannot tell us on what basis it condemned you to jail or it set you free, that not only actually limits transparency, but it also puts in blockages around accountability. It can't be held accountable. First of all, no one can be held accountable, but someone is actually going to serve time in jail. So that is why we would need now these
checks and balances of sorts.
And again, like we discussed, for example, the copyright issues. Who owns the intellectual property? Who owns the work? You understand? Does it belong to the AI? Does it belong to me? Does it, things like that. Now, all these are concerns, and usually, innovation is always ahead of policy.
True, absolutely.
By the time they think about drafting laws for cryptocurrencies, they're already existing. By the time they think about drafting laws for AI lawyers, by the time they took that robots to prison for practicing law without a license, it had already practiced. Now, innovation is always ahead, and because it is always ahead, given the possibilities and the power of AI, then you can see why concerns actually need to be raised at some level.
Okay.
So you've talked about the wives or the women robots.
Yes.
They're going to come out in September. There are also concerns around that. I mean, if right now many people are raising concerns on self-driving cars. They're knocking, they're doing what? Now, that's a safety issue. Who takes liability? Is it Tesla? Does it pay? But it's the car that has misbehaved. Then the car is mine, I own it. Now, if you do not have serious discussions about this, the innovators will go and they do whatever they want to do. They will make some tests, and sometimes they are willing to compensate. I can tell you, we read about the Ford issue. No, not Ford, the Honda issue.
And I think even some German car which was emitting some emissions.
Yeah, I mean, even in philosophy, I think it is covered. You know, there is this. There was a time when in Czech Republic they introduced taxation on cigarettes, and the understanding was that the government was saying that people are dying more from smoking. So if they would introduce a tax on cigarettes, it's reducing the number of deaths, but it would also increase the tax that the government will be collecting. And the Philip Morris consultancy did a research, said that, well, the more people smoke, it's the more they get sick, hospitals get more money. You understand?
Wow.
It's the more they die early. That
Right.
means that government is saved in pension, which they have spent.
Oh dear.
So by the time they did a cost-benefit analysis, it was clear that government was actually going to lose over $100 million if it introduced that tax. Now the same applies to Honda about the fuel tank saga and changing the fuel tanks when you did a cost-benefit analysis, because the tank was kind of near the engine or something like that. It would overheat and it would result into damages. Now Honda analyzed the cost of recalling all those cars and fixing them, and it was much more expensive than compensating a person who has
undergone the
damages or something at $200,000
Imagine. It happened in America. I think you remember that when they called one of those Japanese guys, I think, because of the cars that were, being run in Germany.
So you can imagine that if you are to do a cost-benefit analysis, it might not always favor human life.
Okay. Mr. Katende, I know, before I invite one of my friends here who introduced me also to ChatGPT to ask a few questions, do you think we have lost a debate as humans when we begin to over-inquire perhaps, or attempt to come up with things that make life easy? I'll give an example of going to the moon. What did you, if you are the head of NASA, would you be celebrating today? What did you get out of that after spending billions of shillings there?
Billions of dollars.
And now billions of dollars, and now realize you can't sustain life there. And now the best you're doing with your friend Elon Musk and others, you're taking people for what other things called explorations, and what you pay private people to just go and tour. What is that really worth? Was it worthwhile? I'm just thinking outside the box.
Okay. You're thinking outside the box. You have two intrinsic questions in there. One is about whether we need to develop more innovative solutions. Ideally. Because when you're saying that do we really need to come up with groundbreaking software, things like that, it's actually a question as to whether human society still needs innovative solutions to thrive better, which it still does. I mean, everything around us needs to be simplified to a certain extent. Now, someone might assume that it's going to create a certain level of laziness, but on one side, it is creating a higher level of productivity, because what we need in the world is efficiency. The world's population is high, and you need to be able to make the best of the talents. You need to be able to make the best of resources, because the population is going high, but resources are not necessarily increasing. Now, instead of spending 2 weeks to craft a certain document, hypothesis, why not get a tool that can do it in a shorter period of time, so that you can dedicate your energy on other things. So we still have problems as human beings, and those problems need solutions. I mean, that is part of why the world, 35% of the world, 35.8% of the world is controlled by 1.1%.
I know.
Yeah, the ultra rich. You're talking about over 900 trillions of dollars owned by just a few individuals, because they understood that the person that creates the greatest value for people is the person that gets the best from the people.
True.
Now, as long as you still have that, people needing more value, more solutions, you would definitely need more innovation, because even innovation itself creates new problems that new innovation must solve.
Absolutely.
We have a Ugandan who prides himself in having created one of the parts on Boeing 787, and he said that it's one of the parts like at the rear end of that plane. And he stated that he joined Boeing for 6 months, and they told him that that particular part was melting over time, and they needed a solution. So he worked on the project for 6 months. He didn't even know that he was actually innovating a new solution. And then at the end of the 6 months, we were like, well, do you know what? You have just created a new thing. So you have a new solution, which is an airplane that is taking people faster, but at the same time, the creation of it is still having some issues, and so always innovation has to come in handy. Now, talking about mega projects like Mission Apollo 17, taking people to the moon, and other things like Elon Musk's taking people to Mars, things like that. There are benefits that were realized actually by that mission. Some of which might not make sense to us. I mean, the fact that the United States of America was proudly saying that we're the first people to take people to the moon did something in terms of branding for that nation.
And then Russia who took the dog first.
You see that? And then you see a coordinated effort of human beings trying to explore worlds beyond themselves.
I know.
Curiosity has kind of benefited humanity, because partly why they were trying to explore space is that at a much more deep, at a much more fair level, they had exhausted a lot of exploration in land, in water, and now they wanted to explore space. In fact, for those that are very intrigued by conspiracy theories, there is the theory of Project HAP, which rests on the premise that the exploration of space made these people come across certain regions in the ionosphere, which, if you would direct electromagnetic waves onto, it would be reflected back onto the earth, and quite a lot of other technologies. So people would then state that such initiatives are used to control climate, weather patterns, things like that. They project certain kind of radiation, spectrum, things like that.
I know those conspiracy theories, yes. And I think that's a serious point, because I think I've heard about it, where they're arguing that those explorations can actually be geared in such a way that they could even turn continents that were substantially deserts into into green areas, and turn the green areas into, by simply pairing around with the. I know one time I think the Russians were having an occasion, and I was amazed that they were super confident that it wasn't going to rain, even though the day before it had rained. And the simple analysis was that they had actually sent some, was it hydrogen something, into the skies, and it diluted something. Whereas that is good, but do you see a kind of tempering with the grand, the grand design of sorts?
Well,
and in doing so, I'm thinking this. I may be wrong. I know you're well informed on quite a number of issues. You probably heard and seen of lost cities where people come up all of a sudden and wait a minute, there's something bigger that has existed before. Don't you think we're coming to that time where the world is going to come to its best, and then boom, and then go back to zero, and then we start from maybe we've existed before. Who knows? I'm being a conspiracy on this point.
Yeah, there are those claims like the lost city of Atlantis, the Hungry Gardens of Babylon, very huge, beautiful, that said to have been lost in time. So, in as far as the history of the earth is concerned, there are things that are urgent to have been lost. And I for one, I do not worry about whether things will be lost or not, because human activity has its own degrading effects on the environment. I mean, for example, you see climate change issues that as a result of partly plastic pollution, polythene pollution, things like that. So there is always human activity, which they call anthropogenic factors, that are always causing detrimental effects to the earth. George Carlin, though, argued that, this is a universe that has gone through faulting processes, you understand, earthquakes, ice ages, and then he concluded by saying that a little polythene bag would not scare it. Of course, George Carlin had his own issues with the politics of alarmism around climate change issues. But it highlights that this universe has gone through a lot. If you look at the processes of mountain formation, rift valley formation, these are strongly structured processes that have affected the earth. I mean, if you look at the processes that are always happening in the sea, in the oceans, part of the tsunamis are caused by underlying activities that are going under the surface of the oceans. And yet those surfaces have not also been effectively studied by scientists because of limitations. I mean, a submarine stops somewhere at a certain depth, beyond which, if it went, a lot of pressure would not be handled, water pressure.
Okay,
so yeah,
Mr. Katende, this is important as we wind up this particular session. I know you are an ardent believer in the omniscience and omnipotence of God.
Yeah.
Tell me something about this gentleman called Malcolm Muggeridge.
Yeah.
Can you say it like it is? There you are, Mr. Katende.
Malcolm Muggeridge was a very interesting journalist. He was a British journalist who came to the knowledge of Jesus at the later years of his life. He is believed to have been very fluent in the English language. In fact, he said that if he would ever meet God, he would acknowledge one sin for having been fatally fluent in the English language.
Tell me that speech. I know you know it offhand. Hit it, my friend. Hit it, my friend. And when you do that, I'm going to do a poem by William Shakespeare, also offhand.
You want me to coin the speech, all in one lifetime speech?
Yes, all in one lifetime speech.
Yeah, so this is a speech that Malcolm Muggeridge gave after reflecting upon history and stuff like that. So he said that when you look back upon history, what do you see? Empires rising and falling, revolutions and counter-revolutions, wealth accumulated and wealth disbursed. Shakespeare has spoken about the rise and fall of great ones, but ebb and flow with them all. And he said that I look back upon my fellow countrymen in Great Britain, once upon a time dominating the culture of the world, most of them convinced in the words of what he said, a popular song of the God who made them mighty shall make them mightier yet. I've seen a cracked Austrian declare the establishment of a Reich that will last for 1,000 years. I have met a murderous Georgian bringer in the Kremlin, acclaimed by the intellectual elite of the world as wiser than Solomon, more human than Marcus Aurelius, and more enlightened than Ashoka. And then he says that I have seen an Italian clown declare that he's going to stop and restart the calendar of his own ascension to power.
Wow, there you go.
Then he continues, he said that all in one lifetime, all go on. He mentioned the United States of America. He said that I've seen the United States of America wealthier and more powerful in military weaponry than the rest of the world put together. So that had the American people so desired, they could have outdone a Caesar or an Alexander in the range and scale of their conquest. All in one lifetime, all gone with the wind.
And
Hitler,
yes, go ahead.
like he said, that England, now a tiny island on the coast of Europe, threatened with dismemberment and bankruptcy. Hitler and Mussolini dead and remembered in infamy. And then he said Stalin, a forbidden name in the regime that he helped found and dominate for some 3 decades. And then he mentioned the United States of America struggling with those precious fluids that make the motor was roaring and the smoke settling, with painful and disastrous memories of the campaign in Vietnam and the donkey horses of the media that charge the windows of Watergate. That's the Watergate scandal. All in my lifetime, bro.
I'm still waiting for something. When he coins it with the Jesus thing. Come on, go ahead.
And he said that behind the debris of these solemn supermen and imperial diplomatists lies the gigantic figure because of whom and through whom mankind must still have peace, the person of Jesus Christ.
Amen and amen and amen. I promise to say something. I'm going to do a poem for you. What's it called? O Mistress Mine by William Shakespeare. And I'm sure my man here doesn't know that poem. Oh, Mistress Mine, where are you roaming? Oh, stay and here, your true love is coming. Steep no high, pretty sweeting. Oh my goodness, I just lost it. God bless you. We'll start from there.